Welcome to the UpLevel Podcast, Holly.
Thank you so much for inviting me on.
Well, the listeners have heard one of the reasons why I wanted you here. Let's just dive right in because,
Okay.
witnessing you navigate relationships, be in right relationship. Like, what is your definition of this term concept that we're exploring? How do you define right relationship?
Ooh. I think it's a healthy balance of both what's working and what's not, because it has to be both, because no relationship is perfect. Everything isn't going to work smoothly. And so, how do you hold those two things in balance with one another to be able to address the things that aren't working and lean into the things that are and navigate that space in between is really, I think, the hardest part. Um, because that's what a real relationship is. It is that there are both things. That's relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it's just an acquaintance, right? Those are the people that everything is surface and everything works all the time. That's why they're they're an acquaintance.
Yeah.
When it's a relationship, it's because there's something deeper. And that just means there's going to be conflict and then there's going to need to be resolution. And so, how do you live in that space and go
Love
back
that.
and forth in a healthy way?
Yeah. I've nobody's described it that way yet. And I love it. And I think that in between space of repair and conflict, which I'm so aligned with you, that is just part of the deal. And
Right.
that's part of any relationship where there is a level of intimacy, and this is in the business context too, where there's just like we all have a stake in it because we're working towards something, whether it is raising children, working on projects, achieving business goals, building homes together. So, help us navigate that in between space? What are some of the ways you view it and work in that in between?
I think it's first recognizing that that you are in that in between space, whether it's conflict or it's resolution, and not being afraid to lean into either. If you don't address anything in the conflict space, then that's not right relationship to me, because that's part of it, being honest and transparent with one another, whether, like you said, it's business or family or kids or friendships. You have to be able to lean into both for the relationship to be right, because not being honest isn't being in a right relationship. So I think it's first being confident enough to step into the conflict part, to get to the resolution part, but also being aware enough of yourself of what you're adding to the unright relationship, part of it, and recognizing sometimes the relationship isn't right because of you, and being willing and honest to admit that and go to those places in every relationship, as much as it's holding other people accountable as well. You have to hold yourself accountable in your part in that
Dynamic.
Yeah.
And that is something I admire about you as a leader. What I've seen in you is your ability to take responsibility for your impact, whether it's something that's happened externally or something that you're aware of is going on internally.
Yeah.
That, is having an impact. It may be creating misalignment. So what can you share with us how you as a human, as a leader, as a partner, a mother, an executive, works on herself to support finding those repair, alignment, reconnection, balance within relationships?
Oh, gosh. I mean, I would say in the last 3 years, the work you and I have done has been really transformative for me. And I think a lot of that has just been looking inward at how much of my leadership style is being impacted by the turmoil or the conflict that's going on inside myself, of how I view, that voice within, the saboteur, all the things of how I'm internally looking at my leadership. And usually in a negative way, because I'm my own worst critic, as most people are. But then how that affects my outward leadership to the team of things no one else is seeing. And I think that's been the biggest thing that's changed within me in every relationship, is looking more internal and then the external. How much of what's going in my mind and my heart is affecting all of my external relationships. And that to be true. Like, you could ask people that and they would go, "Oh, sure, of course that's true." But I think when that gets kind of unlocked, when you recognize that in a really deep way, and some of your tendencies, how that impacts your external relationships and how you view those, how you handle those, how you handle leadership challenges because of things that are internal, that kind of dictates um, how those relationships are transformed.
And our inner world creates our outer world. That's kind
Yeah.
of what I hear you saying. And right
Yeah.
relationship starts with our relationship to ourself,
Yeah.
and knowing all of these different our strengths, as well as the places, like you said, the
Yeah.
saboteur. For those that don't know that term, we're talking about like our inner critics, the internal dialogues that, you know, maybe make up stuff that isn't there, or they are based in past traumas and past experiences, but it's not necessarily what's happening in the current moment. So, like, kudos to you and all the leaders and all the people who are doing the work.
Yeah.
You know that saying? I don't know who said it, but I love it. Leaders bring the weather. So it's like the leader,
Mm.
it's what you're saying, kind of it's going to be a bright sunny day in our workspace, or it's going to be cloudy and rainy, because I may be operating with a lack of awareness of how my internal dialogue is being projected on the folks that I'm working with. So what's like a tool or a practice that you've been using that supports this, so that for folks who are like, yeah, it's time for me to like really be aware of the weather I'm bringing?
Mm. Um, Gosh, I think in all the work that I've done, especially over the last couple of years, of really just recognizing that internal voice, and not how to quiet them, but how to balance it, and how to recognize um, when the internal voice is off kilter, or leading me down a dark, negative path. It's way easier for all of us to believe the weaknesses about ourselves instead of the strengths. And so that inner voice for me loves to camp out on the weaknesses. And so then that builds up, and then that is what comes out of me. And so it's really trying to focus on um joy and the strengths that I have, and what is true, instead of what that inner critic is telling me is true. It's what is outward is a lot more of the reality than what is spinning inside of me when something goes wrong or when I'm worried, which is a lot, or when there's a challenge, and really trying to go back to, all right, what is truth? What do I really believe about myself? Not what is that inner critic trying to make me believe about myself? And then how do I walk out of that, whether it's in a situation or crisis or challenge or something that is positive, and how to sit in that as well, which isn't comfortable
Ooh, yeah.
for me.
That's a
Sitting
good
in the
one.
good isn't comfortable for me. And so even working to be comfortable in that season or in those moments has been work I've had to do and continue to do on myself.
I love that you brought that in there because I feel that's very much ingrained in like Western culture as far
Mm.
as um, next goal, stretch goal, achieved it, go on to the next thing. And there's
Yeah.
not these moments of, wait a second, look what's happened here.
Yeah.
And not just like the goals, but the goal line and the soul line. Like, look who I've become while I've pursued these goals. Look at the goals we've achieved. And that's something I see you do as a lead with your team. Let's take a moment and celebrate. We achieve these things.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a big, important thing. We're in a really interesting time where so many things are shifting and
Mhm.
the way of leading is shifting. And so this premise of let's celebrate our wins, let's pause.
Yeah.
It feels like a really important leadership practice for folks.
Yeah. And I think I am much better at doing that for the team,
Hmm.
with the team, in front of the team.
Yeah.
And then when that door closes and I'm by myself, that's when the inner critic kicks in of, well, that is right now, that won't be tomorrow, or it's not really true. And if
Yeah.
all the questions and
Yeah.
all the pieces that you throw at yourself internally. And so that's also what I'm trying to get better at, is how do I let myself sit in the good just for myself,
Mm.
just for my own mental well-being and
Mhm.
recognition of what's been done or accomplished or achieved. That's been the harder part for me. I'm
Yeah.
great at celebrating others
Others.
and their accomplishments, and I love to recognize that. I really don't like it for myself, and I don't let myself sit in it very often, um, because it feels, said before, I kind of always wait for the rug to be pulled out.
Mhm. In the past, you did.
Yeah.
In
And
the
I and
past.
and I still struggle with that. Like,
Yeah.
I always wait for that rug to be pulled out last minute of, "It's working, it's working, it's working." No, here, and expecting that more than expecting that it's gonna work.
Hmm.
And I can
Yeah.
do that well in a team sense, in a meeting sense, but kind of left to my own thoughts is where I wrestle with that.
Yeah, I've seen you wrestle with it and the level of awareness of it and knowing that this is it's something that needs to be tracked, monitored,
Mhm.
worked on because you realize the benefit of giving yourself those moments as well.
Mhm.
So, I know you're not alone in that. I know
Yeah.
many leaders and I'm going to be bold to say that I see it more in female leaders.
Mhm. That's
This
not surprising to me.
yeah. Yeah. I see it much more in female leaders, this inability to really like uh honor
Mm.
the achievements and the work that's been done. And so I don't know if there's anything you want to say about like what your journey's been like as a female executive in the music industry.
It's hard because there's not much modeled for you, and there's not a lot of other female leaders that you can have community with.
Yeah.
There's other leaders in the music business that I have community with, and I'm very appreciative of that. But people walking in the shoes I walk, also trying to parent at the same time, trying to get someone to cheer practice, trying to make sure homework is turned in, trying to make sure they have their rush dues paid, whatever the case may be for all of my kids.
Yeah.
Women just handle that differently. It's not that men don't, men leaders don't, and men leaders that are parents don't. It is just different as a mom. And so it was really lonely at first. And I think we've talked about that. When I stepped into my new role, and people would ask me several months in, what was surprising? What weren't you prepared for? And I was like, the business side of it, I was prepared for all of that. I knew what was coming. I knew what I was walking into. And I'd say the thing that caught me off guard was I wasn't prepared for how lonely it is to be a leader at a certain level, and then add on top of that, to be a female leader at a certain level is a really lonely place, because there's not a lot of other, especially in the music business. There's women that lead management companies. There's a few that work on the music side that lead different companies, but it's not the same community
Yeah.
that men have. And so that's been a very challenging position
Yeah.
to sit in. But I'm also now more aware than I've ever been of what my leadership and my role in that um, says to all the other women in the industry.
Yeah.
And I used to not recognize that as much, or not give it much importance, I would say. And I've become more aware of not me, but a woman sitting in the role that I do,
Mhm.
what that communicates to other women in the music industry, whether it's people at my company or just people across the industry. And so I try to sit in that more
Mhm.
as something to carry with great responsibility.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. And what do you want it to inspire in other female leaders or signify?
that they matter, that their voice in this industry is very important. Uh, and I think that balance of, you can be a mom and a wife and all these other things you want to be, and you can also be incredibly great at what you do,
Mm.
and um, keep growing in your career. That you don't have to choose. You can choose one over the other, and that's great, but you don't have to choose, and you can do both. And you can leave work early and go to a baseball game, or go pick up somebody from practice when you need to. It doesn't make you less than here. And it also does, when you're here, it doesn't make you less than at home.
Yeah.
And I always try, especially new moms, when they're coming back from maternity leave and people on staff, try to be encouraging to them, like, hey, there's some days it's going to go great. You're going to get out of the house and it's going to be smooth. There's other days it's going to be a train wreck and you're going to feel incredibly guilty coming in.
Yeah.
Just know that's totally normal.
Yeah.
And that's okay. It's
See,
okay to have
that's
all those feels.
it's beautiful. Thank you for articulating all of that. I feel like that's right relationship when it comes to holding the roles of mother, partner, leader, business leader, and the fact that it's going to be different every day.
Yeah.
That's like the piece of wisdom that feels really important. It's not like you arrive and have it all figured out every single day, hit repeat, right? I mean, it's a juggling act.
Yeah.
And is there I know there's a lot of guidance around that, but one thing that's really served you, that when you were more junior in your career as a female leader balancing all these roles, that it would have been helpful for you to hear?
I think it would have been helpful just to have other female leaders in the room,
Mhm.
because primarily it was, I was the only one. And so when you had to make choices to leave early or not be somewhere, it was never that it was challenged. It just, the same level of acknowledgement wasn't there,
Yeah.
if that makes
Yeah.
sense. And so,
Yeah. So more representation,
yeah,
and so this is like
makes a difference.
a call to action for folks who are hiring, who
Mhm.
are creating succession plans. Like, we need more representation of females holding these multiple roles around the
Mhm.
table so that there's more safety to operate like
Yeah.
the way you're saying. And yeah. Another thing that I've really been inspired and admired about your leadership, if you're willing to speak a little bit about, is your faith
Mhm.
and your connection to God. And
Mhm.
when we're exploring right relationship, it tends to come into the conversation, right? And it looks a bit different for each person. But we started with relationship with self today in
Mhm.
our conversation. And then people would talk about relationship with others, which we've been exploring, and then a relationship to something bigger than themselves.
Mhm.
Um, what will you share about your faith and how that serves you and your leadership and being in right relationship?
Um, well, my faith is incredibly important to me. It's a part of who I am, and it's why I do the work that I do, is because of a message, um, and an eternal mindset that is bigger than myself. And so, right relationship is biblical. Doesn't mean it's easy. It just means that what I believe, there is a path laid out of what right relationship looks like. Um, if you consider yourself a believer and the responsibility you have to enter into right relationship, whether it's on um, the conflict side or the resolution side. And so, what does that look like? And so, as a leader, I carry that with me, but not even just as a leader, just as a human being. Like, that guides me. That guides me as a wife, as a mother, as a business person, as a friend. And so, that kind of deep anchor of who I am resides in everything that I do. And so it can't help but to spill out into my leadership style.
Mhm.
Again, doesn't mean it's perfect, but hopefully my team knows, and the people that I interact with, whether it's our artists or writers or creatives or the staff, that anchor is there of what I believe and why. And so my decisions, my actions, um, my relationships flow out of that anchor
Mhm.
to God and to a belief that there's something beyond life here. And so um, that steers everything, it influences everything that I do.
I'm getting full body shivers. Full body shivers because I really witnessed that in you, and anchor is such a good word um, for how your relationship to something
Mhm.
bigger than you has guided you. And I didn't know this about you, but you grew up like singing.
Yes.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about maybe where this relationship started.
So my family and I used to travel and sing.
Wow.
Um, and we would leave. So it was my aunt and uncle, my mom and my stepdad, my brother and sister and I. And we would leave after the football game, usually on Friday nights, because my dad was the announcer at the high school football games. And we would drive someplace, sing, usually at a church, sing Saturday night, sing someplace Sunday morning, Sunday night, and drive back home and go to school. And so we did that pretty much almost every weekend from the time I was about 6. And my brother and sister and I would come up for a portion of the concert and sing because we were little kids and, it was that kind of cute portion. And then as we grew older, we would do more. And so that's really where my love of Christian music started. My mom was a writer. We would come to Nashville to record. But that is where my parents' faith really became my faith also as I grew into an adult. And then when I moved to Nashville, I knew I wanted to work in the music business if I was going to live in Nashville. And my life had been modeled around the Christian music kind of business. And so just was a natural progression. And I've never once thought about moving to another genre of music in all of this. It's what I love. It's who I am. It's what I really believe in and am passionate about. But that all started when I was little, and we would travel and sing, and I would be able to watch how songs impacted people and learned that from a really young age.
What do you think that little girl would say to you now? Seeing who you've become and the path you've been on.
I mean, I think in a lot of ways she would not be surprised based on what her life was then and what was modeled in front of her. But then other ways, I think just who I've become, she would be very encouraged by, and even not knowing the things that I would walk through that I've walked through. And on the other side, that she would be really proud. And also like, that, yep, that seems like the right fit kind of thing. Like, I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, when I think again about right relationship, it's like purpose, alignment, belief, and when we look at your story from origin, it's like you just kept listening and following that path, and it's created who you've become as a leader, as a mother, as a partner, as a friend. It's beautiful. It's beautiful to witness.
Thank you.
Yeah. So is there any specific pieces of wisdom in this context of right relationship that you really want to make sure folks who are dialing into this receive from you?
My gosh, I never think I have specific pieces of wisdom.
You have so much wisdom. You just dropped so much of it. So I'm just mining for a little bit more.
I think first, as a leader, it's as much about acknowledging your own when you're wrong in the relationship. It's like they tell you that with your kids, that you need to go ask your kids, hey, I'm sorry, I handled that poorly.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have done that. And I think in the workspace and with my team, trying to do that, like, hey, that was wrong. I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have handled it like that. And how modeling how you want it to look between everyone else, that you need to model that yourself in front of your team on all the things, on the celebrating, on taking accountability for saying I'm sorry, for saying, bad choices that were made or bad decisions that were made, acknowledging in front of everyone involved, like, hey, that's on me. I did that.
Yeah.
And really, so that they see it's a safe place for them to do that. And also that that's what's expected in relationship. Doesn't mean something's going to happen to you, but as a leader, you should be able to go, hey, that's on me. I did that. I was wrong. And for the rest of the team to be able to see that so that they can then feel the freedom and the safety to be able to do that with the teams that are underneath them,
Mm-hmm.
or that they learn that that's just part of what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Right decisions, wrong decisions, and everything in between. Um,
That's
so
beautiful.
I think modeling that is one of the most important things you can do.
Yeah. Modeling that, taking responsibility for mistakes, or, hey, that could have gone
Yeah.
better or differently,
Yeah.
and modeling that so that that behavior gets repeated and
Yeah.
and learned within the ecosystem that you're guiding. And then when right relationship, when it relates to like the whole of, because we've talked today a lot about when you're a human at work and you have multiple
Mhm.
roles, what's your guidance for that?
In terms of what? Like,
In
just
terms
how
of,
to balance.
yeah, or just like hold it, because I think there's still folks that will say, I've got to have my work self, and then I have to have my home self, and we know a lot of that's been broken down over the past 6 years with the pandemic and other things unfolding. But you really spoke about it a lot today. So if there's a piece of guidance for folks who are still working to navigate that piece.
Yeah. Uh, and every work environment is different. And so I hope to create and hope that I've created a space here that they can have both sides of who they are. It is what makes them great at their job, is part of who they are as a person in all the other areas of their life.
Yeah.
And so being able to recognize that as a whole person, and their spouses and their families, or what they do outside of work, there are other things they're passionate about. All of that is hopefully what they bring into the office every day that makes them great at the work that they do.
Mhm.
Um, Being a great father should play into why they're a great leader here, why they're caring about their artists, how they steer it, the responsibility with how they do their job. It's kind of a part of the whole picture here, I think, of who they are. And hopefully I model that as well, that
Mm.
things people know about me, things that I share about my own life, gives people the freedom to kind of share those pieces of their home life and who they are, and what
Mm.
they do here is the same thing of what they are and who they are at home.
This is what, at UpLevel, we're really holding the torch for, is
Yeah.
bringing humanity into the workplace.
Yeah.
And what you just said feels really important towards that. It's like we are whole humans who go to work,
Mhm.
and that's an asset. It's not
Mhm.
meant to be, left at the door or on the other end of the
Right.
video call. It's like, how do we include that, create from it, allow it to inform our leadership and how we are in relationships at work. So
Mhm.
yes to that. Are there any places where people can? I know people can find you in LinkedIn, and we'll put that in the show notes. But is there anywhere where you want to point people to learn more about the artists you're representing or the work that you're doing?
Oh, any of our social handles, I think. I'm not great on social media. I mean, unless you just want to see uh, photos of my kids. Um, I'm just not great about posting, but my social media, and then Provident Entertainment social media, that will have everything about all of our artists and the impact that they're having on the world and their ministries. And then Essential Music Publishing, which is all of our songwriters and all the impact that their songs continue to have around the world, and the work that they do are probably the two best places.
Mm. Holly, thank you for bringing your
Thank
wisdom
you.
and being such a beautiful model of right relationship in all these different contexts that we explored today.
Thank you. Well, it's so much of it is the work that we've done together over the last almost 2 years, and how much that really has transformed me and just given me permission to look at things differently within myself and kind of navigate that in some really difficult and challenging leadership times. And also my own life blowing up in a lot of ways. It was like you walked into, we always talk about the perfect storm of what was happening for me, and really helped me navigate that, not as much externally, but more internally, which had such an external impact
Mm.
for the people I love and my team and my artists, and getting to pour into them more. So
Well,
so
thank you
grateful.
for being willing, to again to do the work and then to come and share it here, and acknowledge to your organization who makes investments in their good people in this way. And we would love to see more organizations realize the value in these kinds of partnerships.
Yeah.
And you're a beautiful example of that. So
Oh, thank
so,
you.
so much respect and appreciation. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in to Holly's unique medicine around right relationship.
Thank you so much.